الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والذين آمنوا أشد حبا لله سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, Inna deena inda Allahi al-Islam, that verily the way of life in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is this deen of Islam. When we talk about this deen, the fundamental, the foundation of this deen is one kalima, la ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. Now this kalima has two portions to it. The first one we all know is la ilaha illallah. When we invoke this kalima, when we say la ilaha illallah, we are claiming certain things. We are claiming that the highest pinnacle of our love and our emotional connection is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that highest level of love and emotional connection with Allah is bounding us, is forcing us to worship Him as our ilah. We are basically saying that there is no raghba, there is no inclination in our heart for anyone but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are basically making the claim that we have talab for nothing else in this world but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are making the claim that there is no mahboob hakiki for us but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that leads us to say la ilaha illallah. The Holy Quran talks about this as وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ, that people of faith, people of iman are those who are ashad, superlative degree, deep and intense in their muhabba for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you have that kind of deep and intense muhabba, you can't help yourself but worship that entity. So this portion of the kalima is all about ikhlas. Ikhlas means that you are focused on just one entity in your life. That's it. That you have nothing else in your heart but that entity. This is what ikhlas is. And then the second portion of the kalima is Muhammadur Rasulullah, where we make the claim that whatever this beautiful Prophet ﷺ brought to us, we accept it without question. We accept it and we not only follow it, but we do ittiba of it as well. So we are doing two things in this kalima. One is we are claiming ikhlas. The second is we are doing tasdeeq. So ikhlas and tasdeeq, these are fundamentals of this kalima tayyibah. If a person does not have that kind of devotion, that kind of ikhlas in his heart, then the opposite of ikhlas we all know is known as riya. It's eye service. The opposite of ikhlas in a person's iman is known as shirk. So that person will have shirk. If you do not believe in just one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you attribute others to Him in your iman, that is shirk. So this is ikhlas fil iman, that we do not worship anyone but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the second step, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, ikhlas fil amal is that we do not do it for anyone but for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this kind of ikhlas is needed in our iman and our amal. And the second portion, when we do tasdeeq, what we are really saying is that we will do every amal that is according to the a'mal of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam according to the sunnah of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if a person is unable to do that, that is known as bid'ah in the deen. And that amal is rejected as well. So in order for any action that comes out of our existence, remember these two things are necessary. One is that amal has to be for the sake of Allah. It has to have ikhlas. Second, that amal that we are doing, it has to be according to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Otherwise, that amal is rejected in the eyes of Allah. It is rejected. My dear brothers, this concept of ikhlas is very central to this deen. It is very necessary for each and every one of us to understand what it is, to implement it, to embrace it, and to make effort to achieve it in our lives. Because the qabuliyat, the acceptance of the amal, totally and completely depends on it. Completely depends on it. My Shaykh al-Hadith, Damat Barakatuhum, I remember one of his early lectures, because as we all know, Bukhari Sharif starts with this Hadith Mubarakah, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. I still remember his first lecture on this hadith. He very beautifully explained this concept. And he said that shaitan, his sole purpose as being against humanity, in order to rob our iman, there are certain steps that he takes. The first is that he does not allow for us to even think about a'mal salihah, and he stops us actively from performing them. That is the first thing. And so we can look at our lives, sometimes we don't even think about these things that we have to attach ourselves to. And so a'mal salihah in general are missing from our lives. And when he becomes weak and he's unable to do that, unable to force a person not to act, and that niyat comes in his heart, yes, that I have to do something, what is the second thing he does? He delays that amal salih. I have the niyat that I have to wake up for tahajjud, I have to become a hafiz, I have to become an alim, I have to do this. All of these niyas are there. But what is the second step shaitan takes? Yes, I can't stop him. His heart is still alive. He's thinking about Allah. So let me delay the amal. And so that is the second step he takes. He will distract a person to such an extent that the person completely almost forgets about it. But then when he thinks about it, he says, oh, I do have the niyyah. And so he becomes content. And the third step, when he's unable to stop that action from happening, the third action that he takes is he taints the niyyah in it. He just puts a drop of urine in that milk and destroys it. He attacks the ikhlas of a person. That person will do the amal. He will do that action. And that a'mal salih, all the good actions will be happening. But since he can't stop you from doing it, he will come and attack the niyyahs, the intentions. And so he taints it. He taints it. So instead of having that devotion for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that person, he switches. The paradigm shifts. Now other people, other nafus start coming into the niyyahs as well. He will start doing it for others. He will start thinking about others in that amal. And even if he's not thinking about others, he's still thinking about his nafs. His nafs comes in. So that amal becomes tainted in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That ikhlas becomes tainted. And so the value of that amal severely decreases in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why today I want to share this hadith mubarakah with you. This hadith talks about different levels of deen. It is narrated in Mishkat Sharif. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, Al-khalaqu kulluhum halikuna illa al-alimun. So the first step, first level of the deen, as mentioned by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is the level of ilm, of knowledge. So the hadith says that all of khalq, of all of creation, will be destroyed and annihilated other than those people who are people of ilm, people of knowledge. So gaining ilm is not a small thing. That is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that having the talab of ilm is fard, whether a person is male or female. It is absolutely obligatory for us to learn the deen. If we don't know the deen, what are we acting upon? If we don't know the way, what are we acting upon? Where are we heading? If I don't know how to get from this masjid back to Brooklyn, how will I get there? That is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Al-ilmu nur, that this knowledge of ilm, the knowledge of deen, is light. It shows you the way. Imam Ghazali rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, he mentions that in the Quran there are a lot of comparisons in different ayahs, and in all of those comparisons Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually talking about people with and without ilm. So alim versus jahil, person who is alive versus person who is dead, nur versus zulmat, it's all about ilm versus ghair ilm, without ilm. So actively gaining and learning the methodologies of the deen is absolutely necessary for us. Isn't this sad that we spend 16, 20, 25 years of our lives running in different universities, myself included? Yet we don't feel the necessity to come and sit in the feet of the ulama and learn the deen properly. And our life is just wasted away without actually knowing what the deen entails from us. So there should at least be some people in every community who have in-depth knowledge of the deen. Remember, it's a light, and if there is no light, then there only will be darkness. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that the khalq, the makhluqat, they will be destroyed other than those people who gain ilm in their lives. It is absolutely necessary. And the ulama, they've been mentioned as the warathatul anbiya, as the inheritors of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, inheritors of the prophets. It's not a small maqam to have. It is not a small rank to have. There are no more prophets, but the ulama, they are the inheritors who are there. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned the second level of this deen. That al-alimuna kulluhum halikuna illa al-amilun. That yes, it is absolutely necessary to gain the ilm, but the ilm will not benefit us until or unless we actively do amal on it. We are seeking out implementation in our lives of whatever we are learning. This is the khulq, this is the sunnah of the Sahaba Kiram. Abu Bakr Siddiq Rasulullah Ta'ala mentioned that it took 2 years for Surah Baqarah to be revealed, and by the time it was revealed, all of our amal was according to Surah Baqarah. And this is how shaitan deceives us. No, spend your time, even people who are gaining ilm, just focus on learning right now, and inshallah we'll implement it later on in our lives. This is the biggest deception. Shaitan delays our amal. So ilm will only benefit when we are doing amal on it. Shaitan was a great alim, wasn't he? A lot of knowledge, a lot of ma'rifah, but he failed to act. When the hukum came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he just refused and he failed to act upon it. So lack of action can turn ta'usul malaika into what? Into shaitan, mardood, فَإِنَّكَ رَجِيم. That is just lack of action. That is why, our mashayikh always say that if a person is not doing amal on his ilm, it is as if he's like a donkey with burden on his back. A person who's not doing amal, acting upon his ilm, is just like an animal who has burden on his back. That's it. It doesn't benefit him. So amal always comes and knocks on the door of the ilm. If the door opens up, then it stays. Otherwise it leaves. And this is a big difference between our life and the life of our akabirin, the predecessor, the Sahaba Ikram, the Tabi'een, You mention it, each and every one of them. Each and every one of them. They were, subhanAllah, they were amazing people because they were people of action. They were people of action. Acting upon the deen was not a burden on them. Acting upon them was not a burden. They used to do amal salihah and they used to hide it. Then a time came where they used to do amal salihah and they used to have eye service in it. They used to propagate it and they used to tell other people. Now is the time we don't even act and we're telling others of just our niyas. Oh, I intend to do this. I intend to do that. वो करते थे और डरते थे. There were people who used to do action and they were afraid of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that there were people who used to sleep little in their nights and they used to wake up and they used to do istighfar. They used to do istighfar on their amal salihah. They used to do more istighfar on their amal salihah that we don't even do on our ma'asiyah. These predecessors, they used to wake up and they used to check their faces. Have our faces changed? Have we changed? And these are people who are up all night long. All night long. Their eyes, they were red. Their eyes were red because of staying up all night long. Allahu Akbar Kabira. And the best of us, subhanAllah, people who get to pray 5 times a day, mashallah, they are the biggest awliya today. It's ajib. How the paradigm has shifted. Real Muslims, real people were like that. People of action. You find examples of so many great people. After spending nights in ibadah for years and years, they would get up and the dua on their tongues was what? Ma abadnaka haqqa ibadatik. Oh Allah, we have not worshipped you as you deserve to be worshipped. Ma arafnaka haqqa ma'arfatik. We have not gained that ma'arfat of yours as you deserve, as that ma'arfat as you deserve to be known. They had that fikr of qabuliyat. This was the hulk, this was the way of true Muslims. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that al-alimuna kulluhum halikuna illa al-amilun. And then he mentions the third aspect of the deen, which inshallah we'll talk about a little bit today. Al-amiluna kulluhum halikuna illa al-mukhlisun. That even people who are people of ilm, people who are forcing themselves to do amal on that ilm, even those people will be destroyed and annihilated, other than those people who are people of ikhlas, people of sincerity. What does sincerity mean here? Sincerity means that that action that comes out of our existence, our being, it's not tainted by any other being but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's it. It's only for His sake. Lillahiyat. وَأَتِمُّ الْحَجَّ وَالْعُمْرَةَ لِلَّهِ. You look at the Quran, ayahs after ayah, Allah Ta'ala talks about this, lillahiyat. That make sure that devotion is there. You're not going for Hajj, you're not going for Umrah, so people would recognize you as a Haji or a person who travels to the Baytullah, or people recognize you as somebody who's so pious and righteous, so you can go to them and you can tell them how many Hajj and how many Umrahs you have done. No. You make sure that the lillahiyat is there. In our countries, there are horse carriages, they're called tanga. And what they have is they have eyes are covered of the horse. So the horse can only look in one direction. It doesn't get distracted. That is what ikhlas is. That we become unidirectional. Only for the sake of Allah. Otherwise, not. So ikhlas is a requirement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ikhlas is something that Allah ta'ala wants in the amal. He wants, He requires it. It's a prerequisite. That is why Hazrat Umar Raziallahu ta'ala anhu, he mentions that we used to look at our niyas, our intentions before, during, and after the amal as well. Just to make sure that we had not gotten off track. The signs of a person who has received some kind of ikhlas in his life is that he will always have istiqamah. Today people talk about, I don't have any istiqamah. I'm like a roller coaster ride, goes up, comes down, goes up, comes down. I do amal certain days and then, I'm unable to do them others. This is the reason, because we haven't really learned in our lives how to do something for Allah. And when we're doing it for others, as long as that presence is there, we'll do it. We'll come to the masjid. Our rukus, our sujood are very different from how we do it at our home. Look at our nawafil that we do at home. For tahajjud, we're just rushing through them. Why? Because nobody's watching us. And when we come to the masjid, when we have this awareness, this istihzar, not of Allah, but of other people. Other people are watching me, they will judge me based on my actions. That person, mashallah, is doing long sujood, long rukus, standing there for a very long time, mashallah. Right? So the istiqamat isn't there. One of our mashayikh, Maulana Shafat Ali Thanvi rahmatullah ta'ala alayh, one time he was addressing a gathering, and when the lecture was over, a person came and he was out of breath, and he said, Shaykh, I tried my best, but I was unable to make it. I was unable, transportation, I was unable to make it. So the Shaykh looked at him and he started doing the lecture all over again. People asked him, so Shaykh, you were addressing 10,000 people before, but now it's only one person. Why are you repeating your lecture? And he replied that when I was addressing 10,000 people, I was just saying it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now that there's only one person in front of me, my conversation is with only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah. This is ikhlas. That you don't look at numbers, you don't look at any of that. You just do it for Allah. So istiqamat ala deen is there, istiqamah. That people are able to have some kind of consistency in their life, in their amal. The second sign of ikhlas is that this person will always try to hide their amal. They understand. They understand that the one that they're doing the amal for, He's watching. هُوَ مَعَكُمْ فَإِنَّمَا كُنْتُمْ He is with them. So they actively take steps to hide their amal salihah. Why does anybody else need to know if I prayed tahajjud or not? Why does anybody else need to know if I've donated to the masjid or not? Why tell others what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows? This is why when the Sahaba Karam, when they used to give to each other, they used to just leave the provisions on the doorsteps of the Sahabi who needed help. That's it. In the morning, he just found what he was looking for. He had no idea who had given it. Why does anybody need to know? Allahu Akbar Kabira. That famous story of Hazrat Umar Farooq Raziallahu ta'ala anhu. He found a list list of all those people who needed help in Medina Munawwara. SubhanAllah, what an amazing society and community. It couldn't have been any bigger than Valley Stream or Almat. It was a very small community, Medina Munawwara. But they used to take care of each other. There was an actual list of members of community who needed help. Umar Farooq saw that there was an old woman. She was a widow, she had nobody to take care of her, and there was no person's name in front of her name who would take care of her. So he went to her house, he knocked on the door. It's like, I'm here to help. He's like, no, somebody already came. Somebody already came. So what's the name? Who came? I have no idea. He comes, I do parda, he just takes care of all the chores in the house, cleans the house, and then he leaves. Second day he came earlier, work was still done. Third day he waited there to see who this person is. That person came tiptoeing. And when he asked who it is, it was Amirul Mu'mineen, Khalifatul Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq. Ya Siddiq Akbar, what are you doing? I'm here to take care of this woman. Why are you tiptoeing? It's because I do not want to disturb anybody else's sleep. I don't want anybody else to know who's here, who's coming. Allahu Akbar Kabir. This is ikhlas, that you just do it. You just do it for the sake of Allah. Imam Zainul Abidin, when he passed away, they were giving him ghusl and he had marks, dark marks on his shoulder and back. They had no idea what the marks are. So the people who were giving him ghusl, they asked his family members. The family members had no clue. People closest to him, his wife, his children, they had no idea. Only after several days had passed, and the orphans and the poor people of the community, they said that a person used to come and he used to drop this water from the well at our houses. Whatever happened to him? Then people realized it was Imam Zainul Abidin. Every night he would just go out, he would carry that water on his shoulder, on his back. And he would just make sure that everybody had the water. He would come back, not even his own family members knew. This is what ikhlas. You hide whatever you're doing. Because the one that really matters, he's seeing you. He's seeing your action. So this is the sign, the alamat of ikhlas, that a person will always try to hide his good actions. Of course, there are some actions that you have to show. Adhan, you cannot hide. Right? But all these nafli amal that we're doing, there's really no reason to tell others. They cannot benefit us. That is why people do it. Because there's an expectation of manfa'at, of benefit, that this person will find out and he'll say, oh, mashallah, he's so pious, he's so righteous, and maybe I'll get a gift, maybe, I'll be called Sheikh afterwards. Or there's always this, looking for nafa and nuqsan, right? Manfaat and benefit and harm, thinking that other people can harm us and other people can benefit. No, there's no way. If it's not that, it's the person's own nafs comes in, that I need to be known. People, they want recognition. And what is disturbing is people who are actively doing khidmat of the deen, they want recognition. Where did that come from? You claim to be serving somebody higher and you want recognition for your own self? They get really upset. People get upset if they're not acknowledged. If their khidmat is not acknowledged, recognized, they get upset. Allahu Akbar Kabir. This is not ikhlas. So it's always looking for benefit from others. So it's looking at other people's nufus. If it's not that, then it's all about our nafs. I need to be recognized. I need to be praised. I want other people, the whole community, to know what kind of great person I am. Me, myself, and I. This is why tazkiyah-e-nafs is very closely related to the concept of ikhlas And ikhlas is very, very closely related to the concept of tawheed. One of the most profound surahs of the Quran is Surah Ikhlas. Is there the word ikhlas in the surah anywhere? No, it's all about tawheed. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ Allahu Samad. Right? It's all about tawheed. Why is the surah called Surah Ikhlas? Tawheed and ikhlas are very much, they go hip to hip. A person can truly have tawheed when he gets rid of the shirk-e-khafi, the hidden shirk. When we stop doing things for others, that is hidden shirk. Riya is hidden shirk. Hadith Mubarakah. Rasulullah SAW mentioned that this eye service, this showing off, this is a hidden shirk. If there were idols here, would we come and bow before them? No, because this is shirk-e-jal. This is apparent shirk. But we do it every single day in our heart when we are doing actions for the sake of others. Those are idols in our chest, in our hearts. And we are bowing before them. We're prostrating before them. So doing amal, looking for nafa and nuksan in others. Another sign of a person of ikhlas is that this person will never complain to others about anything. Because he knows nobody can benefit. If nobody can benefit, why should I complain to them? So his eyes are always on Allah. And his claim is like Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salam. إِنَّمَا أَشْكُ بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. Yes, if I have something that I need, Allah will provide. If there's some trial and tribulation in my life, why should I tell you? What can you do for me? Nobody can help us. Allah can help us. So all my إِنَّمَا أَشْكُ بَثِّي وَحُزْنِ, the inner grief, I will turn to Allah with that, the one who can truly help us. So sign of ikhlas is what? That person will never sit in the company of others. Yaar karobar acha nahi ja raha, right? Look at my business is flopping, and my boss is giving me a hard time, and college is going like this, and I don't have enough money and my wealth. I'm worried about how I'll retire, and right, the 401ks are not doing well. It's ajib. We have become such ungrateful people. That's all we do. Never before in the history of mankind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave so much to humanity. We have everything in our life. Yet we are the most ungrateful people. And I'm talking about Muslims. We are the most ungrateful people. Always shikwa. Always talking about what I don't have. Why don't our tongues tire in doing shukr? Ya Allah, you have given me more than I could ever deserve and want in my life. Why don't they tire? Because Allah is not in our life. Allah is not in our life. I mean, we say it, but He's not in our life. So we're looking at others, we're complaining to others 24 hours a day. Really, when was the last time when we did offer two rakahs of shukrana? Ya Allah Kareem, Allah, you have given me so much. Allah, I should be in sajda 24 hours a day for your ni'mas, for your blessings that you have given me. And this person will always seek his reward from Allah as well. Always from Allah. There's that famous story of Abu Nujair, rahmatullah ta'ala alayh. He was a very wealthy, independently wealthy person. The local governor came to him and he asked him that I am doing this social work and I want you to give in the path of Allah. Infaq fi sabilillah is a very important part of this deen. So he took out 250,000 gold dinar and gave it to him. 250, $250,000 gold dinar. $250,000 is a big amount. Then and now. So he took it. And then he was sitting in a gathering, and the governor, talked to others and said, MashaAllah, look at this. This person has given so much. You should give as well. And when he praised Abu Nujair so publicly, he got up. And he said to the governor, I forgot to ask my relatives, my father, my mother, and so I want you to give this money back to me. Now, when he asked for the money back in public, everybody started whispering, what kind of person is this? First he gives, now he wants it back. Has he no shame? And so he was embarrassed publicly. Abu Nujair took that money, he left. That night, there was a knock on the door. He opened the door, the governor opened the door, and he found Abu Nujair was there. He said, yes, how can I help you? He said, that I gave you this money so you could spend it in whatever social work you wanted to do, but I did it for the sake of Allah. And you were praising me in front of other people, so my nafs would become happy about it. You wanted to taint my niyyah, taint my reward? Here, take this money, spend it. Do not tell a single soul of what I have done. Don't tell that I have given. Because I want the reward from what? From Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this was the sunnah of our predecessor, Akabirin. There were people of action, but I don't need to tell you. Allah Ta'ala knows. And I will seek my reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the adna, the lower level, the state of ikhlas is that we should be at least neutral in our niyas. At least don't do it for others if we can't get ourselves to do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't do it for anyone, just do it. That is the adna level of ikhlas. That instead of doing it for others, we just do it, not for others, not for Allah. And then we learn how to make our ibadat for the sake of Allah. You have to learn this. This ikhlas, it comes by learning. It comes when the presence of the one that you're doing the amal for, that presence is there. That istihzar of the Rabb of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there. Then ikhlas really comes. Because now you're thinking about Him. With every, that noise, right? People, when they're talking this new product, Google Hangout, if a lot of people are talking all the time, that nobody can hear any other person. Why? Because so many people are talking at the same time. Similarly, in our heart, there's so many things happening. The nafs is talking, the shaitan is talking, and so we can't judge. What are we doing this amal for? So that noise has to be taken care of. Nafs has to be silent. This is what tazkiyah is all about. Silencing your own nafs. Shaitan, those guards, those boundaries have to be established with the zikr of Allah. So shaitan cannot come and inject all those wasawas. And then you can take your niyyah and then you can make it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how we do it. Otherwise, lip service is very easy. Yes, I'm doing it for the sake of Allah. I can ask everybody, are we praying for the sake of Allah? Yes, we are praying for the sake of Allah. But really to feel that in the heart, that is what ikhlas is. That is why our Mashaykh called it khalwa in your heart min ghayrullah. That your heart is empty from ghayrullah, from anyone but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is what khalwa is. Har tamanna dil se rukhsat ho gayi. Ab to aaja, ab to khalwat hogi. This is what khalwat is all about. Emptying your heart from everything, everyone but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when the heart empties, when the nafs silences, when shaitan is pushed at bay, then what remains is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the heart. Then we can focus on the niyas to make it for the sake of Allah. I want to share two ahadith with you before finishing the one that I started. They're very profound ahadith. They talk about different kinds of people. The first one has been mentioned by Hazrat Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And when Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he used to mention this hadith, sometimes he would faint. Allahu Akbar. These words had such effect, he would faint. He mentioned that on the day of judgment, on the day of accountability, 3 people will be presented in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they're not people of words, they're people of action who will be presented in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People who actually did something in their life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will address them. The first person would be a scholar, a great alim. Allah ta'ala will ask him, what have you brought for us? Very fundamental question. I gave you this life, what have you done for us? That alim will reply, oh Allah, I became an alim, I gained your ilm, your knowledge, I spread it, I went around the world, I made madaris and masajid, I did everything to spread your deen. And it will be said to him, yes, you did all of this, but you did so people will call you an alim, people will call you a sheikh, people will be, they'll sit in your feet and, you'll feel so good about yourself. And so they did, faqad qeel. You were called a great alim, you were called a great scholar. And so today we have nothing for you. This great scholar, this person who has dedicated his life for seeking ilm, for spreading the knowledge, he will be taken and he will be thrown in the hellfire. Allahu Akbar kabira. I mean, when you read this, subhanallah, person who has dedicated his life already, who has done so much in his life, because he was unable to fix the niyas, this is what is happening, then what will become of us? Who have nothing to present, who have absolutely nothing to present in front of Allah. What will happen to us? The second person, he's brought forth. He's a generous person, he's a sakhi. He will be asked the same question, what have you done for us? This life that was given to you, oh Allah, I spend in your path. Infaq fi sabilillah, I spend in all the good works, I made masajid, madaris, I did all of that. So yes, you did, but so people would call you a great sakhi. And so they did. Faqad qeel. It was said. And so today there's nothing for you, that sakhi will be thrown in the hellfire. Third person, ultimate sacrifice. A mujahid will be presented. Oh mujahid, what have you done for us? Ya Allah, I laid down my own life in your path. For your sake, I did it. I did it. Look at, the blood is still flowing. But yes, you did. But you did, so people would call you shuja', brave. Such a brave person. Faqad qeel. And so it was said, you were called a great person, you were recognized, there were monuments in your name. And so today we have nothing for you with us. And that mujahid will be sent into the hellfire as well. Allahu Akbar kabir. It's not a small sacrifice. One is sacrificing his time and energies. The other is sacrificing his wealth, his accumulation. The third person is sacrificing his life. What more can Allah ask for? Allah is asking for ikhlas. Allah is asking for ikhlas. That person will be thrown in the hellfire. Allahu Akbar. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ. All Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from them, the only thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from them, from us, is what? Is to be people of ikhlas. That's all Allah ta'ala wants. That's the only thing Allah ta'ala wants. Because this is tawheed haqiqi. Without ikhlas, tawheed haqiqi can never be recognized. There always be taint of other people or our own nafs. Allahu Akbar kabira. And then there's a hadith of Mubarakah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned about 3 people of Bani Israel. These 3 people, they were going their way and they got stuck in some hurricane, some storm. And so they took refuge in a cave. And while they were in the cave, a big rock came and it covered the entrance of the cave. We read this story when we were little kids. It covered the entrance of the cave. And so they tried to push it out, but it was so big, it was so huge, they were unable to budge it. They recognized that if they were unable to move it, this would be their grave as well. So they said amongst themselves that why don't we present some of our a'mal in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If they were a'mal that were accepted, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help us. So the first person, he says, Ya Allah Kareem, oh Allah, you know that I am a shepherd and I take care of sheep. And one night I came back home and my mother, she asked for milk. And I did not have any milk ready, so I went. I was tired, but I went. And I took that milk and I brought it to my mother, but she had already slept. So instead of going back to sleep, I stood by her pillow all night long. So when she would wake up, I would present her that milk. Oh Allah, if that amal, if that action is accepted in your eyes, help us. That rock, it budged. It moved a little bit, meaning that amal was accepted. Are we talking about great ibadat here? No, it's just a small amal. The second person, he came forward. He said, Ya Allah Kareem, one time I had a laborer who came and who took care of my house. And before claiming his wages, he left. And I took that money and I bought a sheep from it. And that sheep, it grew in number. Before I knew it, there were so many sheep and I had the whole herd. And after so many years, that person, the laborer, came back and asked for the wage. And I recognized that the whole herd belongs to him, so I gave him the whole herd. Oh Allah, if that amal is accepted in your eyes, Ya Allah Kareem, please help us. So it is all about humanity, right? It's all about doing something for others with ikhlas. And so the stone, it moved a little bit more. The third person came, he said, Ya Allah Kareem, I was involved with a person of the opposite gender. I was in love with her. And I got the opportunity after a while to commit the ultimate guna, right? However, I stopped myself from committing that guna, that sin. Oh Allah, if by stopping myself from fornicating, from committing that guna, if that amal was accepted in your eyes, Ya Allah Kareem, help us. And that rock, it just rolled away and those people, they were able to escape. Now we get three people. On one hand, we have three people who had dedicated everything for the sake of Allah. Alim, a Sakhi, a person who's a shaheed. And then we get three people. All of them are just presenting one amal each, one action. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is helping them and Allah ta'ala is condemning them. Why? Because they did those amal for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is exactly what we're looking for in our life. That just one amal. One amal in our life. One sajda that Allah ta'ala will accept. Just one sajda. One amal that we can present in front of Allah. That is all what we're looking for. That is why we come to the masjid. Oh Allah, maybe one sajda, one salah, one tear that we shed is for your sake, Allah, that is accepted in your eyes, and Allah, you will forgive us. That is all what we're looking for. Like that fahisha, that prostitute of Bani Israel. What did she do? She just fed that dog. That dog was thirsty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave all of her sins. And we are like that as well. Ya Allah, we are people with lack of haya, lack of commitment. Allah, we have been insincere towards you. We have been disloyal towards you. We have been sinners. Allah, we are worse than that person. But Allah, help us just do one amal that will be accepted in your eyes. That is what life is all about. Just one amal. One amal. So we must actively work towards that. Work towards ikhlas. And get rid of this riyah that we are so indulged in. That is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one time, he came in a gathering, he saw that the Sahaba Karam, they were talking about Dajjal. And Rasulullah mentioned that I am more worried about shirk khafi in my ummah, which is riyah, than I am about fitna of Dajjal. More worried. Because if you are a person of ikhlas, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you. This is the reward of a person who has ikhlas in his life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps that person no matter what circumstance he is in. Halil mushkilat. You find a mushkil in your life, Allah ta'ala will become the hal. Allah ta'ala will become the solution of that. Allah ta'ala will help us like that. So it's not just the akhirah that Allah ta'ala helps us in. Person who has sincerity in his amal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes care of his mushkilat. If we feel that we have a lot of trials in our life, look at our life. We will find the absence of our attachment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll find that. We'll find that we're not attached to Him. So halil mushkilat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises that person in his darajat. Rasulullah sallallahu mentioned that if a person has a true niyyah of martyrdom, of shahada in his life, that even if he dies or passes away on his bed, because of that ikhlas, Allah ta'ala will give him the same rank. So this is Allah ta'ala raises a person's rank because of ikhlas. Allah, I want this. Sincerely, Allah ta'ala raises that person. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rushes to forgive such a person. Rushes to forgive such a person. Why? Because if you have dedicated your life for somebody, if you slip once or twice, that somebody will rush to forgive you. If we dedicate our life for Allah, even if a person slips now and then, Allah Ta'ala gives him the tawfiq of tawbah and istighfar right away. Brings him back on the track. Because you are mine, so why should I divorce and why should I leave you? So Allah Ta'ala races to forgive such a person, and then Allah Ta'ala increases in the reward. Anything without sincerity, you can do an amal as big as a mountain, but without ikhlas, it's just matti, it's just soil. But even small amal, with ikhlas, they are greater than mountains in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're greater. It's just like if you have 1 kilo, 1 pound of silver or gold or matti, the value is different. Value is different. 1 pound of soil will not get you more than $5, $10. But if you have 1 pound of gold, Allahu Akbar kabira, that's valuable. Exactly like that. Same amal, a person of riyah will be doing the same amal as a person of ikhlas. But one is gold, the other is matti, the other is rejected. So Allah Ta'ala increases in the ajr as well. And such are the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases in their hikmat as well. Rasulullah said, he who does ibadah for 40 days with ikhlas, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives fountains of wisdom in his chest. Fountains of wisdom, of hikmah, of ma'rifat of Allah. It just doesn't come on its own. So fountains of hikmah come for people who are people of ikhlas. And then another thing, that these people, even though they are trying to hide them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens them up. And people recognize them from the nur of their faces. You don't have to tell them. You recognize these people from the light on their faces. The nur of iman on their faces, you recognize them. Allahu Akbar. There are amazing stories of sincerity and ikhlas. But since the time is short, how does a person engage in it? The first practical step that, my dear brothers, we all need to bring in our lives is tasheer niyat, is to really start looking at our niyas actively. Read in books that mashayikh used to spend 18 years of their life in just fixing their niyas for every amal that they're taking. So tasheer niyat is the first step. Everybody can do it. Whatever we're doing, start thinking about why I'm doing certain thing. Am I doing it for Allah? If not, how do I fix it so it becomes for the sake of Allah, so there's no taint left there? Our mashayikh actually had people work on it. One sheikh said that I spent 8 years in the company of my sheikh to learn how to fix my niyas, how to fix my intentions. So fixing the intention leads to ihsan. Presence of Allah and presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ikhlas are very much related. Because when the presence comes in, now everything is for His sake. So tasheer niyat is the first thing. Second, actively seeking out the company of those people who are mukhlisin. Really, it's so easy to rub off. When we have examples in front of our eyes of people who have just dedicated themselves, it's all about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is easy to learn that. That is why our mashayikh, they were, subhanallah, all the great examples, you find that they were students of such mashayikh who were people of ikhlas. In the near past, you have Hazrat Haji Imdadullah Muhajir Makki rahmatullah ta'ala. He's the Shaykhul Mashayikh in South Asia. And if you look at his life, subhanallah, he was such a sincere person, such an amazing person. And you find in his life, he used to say that when people come to become my students, I'm afraid of them like a person is afraid of lions and tigers. So there's such a big responsibility because I will be responsible for their spiritual and ruhani upbringing. They have come to me to become a proper Allah ka banda, and I'm afraid of them, that I can't do it. But he was also a person who would take anybody to everybody. So people asked him, why do you do it? He said, the only reason I do it is because they have come to me with a su'al, with a question. They have come with a need. And if I do not fulfill their need, then I will be held responsible. So I just take them as my students so I can fulfill their need and I can help them. And the second niyyah in my heart is that on the day of judgment, because of my own lack of ikhlas, when I'll be presented in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I will be in chains, then maybe one of these people, these students, they will recognize me and they will intercede on my behalf. Allahu Akbar. This is person of ikhlas. And when you have somebody like that, that is how you have Mufti Rashid Ahmad Gangohi and Maulana Shafali Thanvi and all these amazing students. They were such people of ikhlas, completely annihilated their own self. So much ajzi. One time, there was a great movement in India before the split of Arya Samaj, people who know this history. And so a lot of Muslims became affected by it and they were leaving their deen. And so there was a munazara, there was a public debate. And so Muslims were looking for somebody who would come and who would do this munazara on the behalf of Muslims. So the eyes went off Hazrat Maulana Qasim Nanavati rahmatullah. They asked him, can you please come? And so this great Shaykh, who is the ambassador, who's the representative of the Muslims, such an important task. He's coming by the railways, by the train, but he does not stop at his eventual stop that he had to come off. He stopped at the stop before that one. And then he walked. He was just walking and walking, mashallah. This great mountain of ilm, all by himself. He came across a brook, and he couldn't pass it, but there were no bridges. Allahu Akbar. So he crossed it. His lungi became wet. He was carrying another one, so he put on that one, and the second one he just put it on his asa so he could dry it. MashaAllah, so much azi. It wasn't about that 20 people should be there to meet me and they should introduce me. No, subhanallah, this is the azi, this is the ikhlas. He's just walking. And he went and he checked himself in a small motel. Those people who were there to welcome him, there were hundreds and hundreds of them. They're waiting with flowers and Allahu Akbar Kabira. They're waiting, the Sheikh will come, and the train comes and nobody steps out. And so started looking for him all over the city. One of his students, he knew his mazaj. That really, he's a trained person. He's a mukhlis person. He said that he will probably be in one of these unknown places. Unknown places. So they went and they saw that he was checked in by one of his kunya, Khurshid Hassan. Not by Mulana Qasim Nanamatwi. And they found him, and subhanAllah, the Shaykh was amazed. And he said, such amazing. He said that I learned a few words and people recognized me. Otherwise, I would have annihilated myself, that nobody would even know my name. Allahu Akbar. Because it's just between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ajib. So ikhlas is something else. Ikhlas is really something else. Our mashayikh had that. They taught it to their students. The Sahaba Ikram learned this from Rasulullah. They were people of ikhlas. The example of Khalid ibn Walid, Raziyallahu ta'ala anhu. Very, very profound example. In the Ghazwa of Yarmouk, Umar Farooq Raziyallahu ta'ala anhu, he sends a person while the Ghazwa is taking place, and he sends this person with a letter in his hand, and the letter said that as soon as you receive this letter, you are let go of being a general of this army. You are not the general anymore. Now you have two options. Either you stay and you fight as a regular person, or you come back to Medina Munawwara. Why? Because certain people from the Tabi'een, they were thinking that whichever Ghazwa has Khalid ibn Walid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give victory to that Ghazwa. So instead of their eyes towards Allah, they were thinking about a human being like that. So Umar Farooq, subhanallah, this person of Tawheed, he said, no, you're not the general anymore. It doesn't matter to me if the army wins or loses. What matters to me is this Tawheed and Ikhlas. And Khalid ibn Walid, he stayed. And people naturally asked him, how do you feel about this? You were up here, and now you are down here. You're down here. How do you feel? He said, I feel fine. Because when I was the general, I was fighting for the sake of Allah. And now that I'm a very regular Joe, I'm still fighting for the sake of Allah. This is how they were trained. It wasn't about others. It wasn't about what this person, this crowd, these people think of me. It was all about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thinks of me. And it's such a hard, when you are at war, you are in a battle, it's a very different situation. Yes, we can talk about these ruhani problems. When there's peace, you come to the masjid, you come to the khanaqah, we'll talk about these things. No. These people, it was about their iman. Ali Raziyallahu ta'ala anhu, subhanallah, in one of these expeditions, he was fighting an enemy, and it was a very hard-fought battle, and Ali Raziyallahu ta'ala was able to take control of it. He came on his chest, he was about to take his life, when that person spat on his face. Spat on his face. Put yourself in those shoes. You have control over somebody. He is your enemy. You have every right to do whatever you want to do. Now you would probably hit him 2 or 3 times, torture him before taking his life. But Ali al-Murtaza, he jumped off. And that other person, he's shocked. He's like, why did you do that? He said that before, I was only fighting you because you were such a great enemy, always after the lives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Muslims, and that was the only reason I was fighting you. 100%, that was my niyyah, but since you spat on my face, 0.00001% my own anger is involved as well. And I don't want to harm you because of my own self. Allahu Akbar. I mean, this is what iman, this is what ikhlas, this is what sincerity really is. Really is. It's not about myself. It's not about other people's selves. It's only about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala matters. So my dear brothers, we must seek it out in tasqiyat, in good company. We should just ask Allah. I mean, this should be a regular dua, supplication. Ya Allah Kareem, make me a person of ikhlas. Make me a person of ihsan. Make me somebody without riya, Ya Allah Kareem. So we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps us become people who are free from this disease of riya, disease of showing off, pretending to be somebody that we are not, being 10-faced people, one face for every single person that we show off. But we should really have sidq. Siddiqiyat is the highest level of walayat. After nabuwat and sahabiyat, siddiqiyat is the highest level of walayat. So we should seek it out. We become true people. Don't pretend to be something that we are not. No riya, nothing for everybody else, only for the sake of Allah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us achieve this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us people of ikhlas, ihsan, people of taqwa. May Allah ta'ala give us tawheed hakiki and protect each and every one of us from shirk jali and shirk khafi. Ameen ya Rabbul Alameen. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So we'll make a small dua inshallah. سبحان ربي على الوهاب اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين اللهم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك اللهم يا مصرف القلوب صرف قلوبنا على طاعتك Ya Allah Kareem, our kind and merciful Lord. Allah, you have been so compassionate to us all of our lives, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, you are so merciful, you are so forgiving, Ya Allah Kareem. Oh Allah, Ya Allah, you brought us here today in your presence, in your house, Ya Allah. We did not deserve to be here. Oh Allah, Ya Allah, we seek you out. We seek out your forgiveness, Allah, for all the sins that we have committed in our lives, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, please forgive each and every one of us. Allah, forgive each and every one of us, Ya Allah Kareem. All the sins that we did in the daytime or nighttime, Ya Allah, hiding from other human beings. But Allah, you were there looking at us, Allah. Oh Allah Kareem, forgive those sins, Ya Allah. Forgive those sins that we did out in public, Ya Allah Kareem. Forgive those sins, Ya Allah, that we did knowingly. Forgive those sins that we did unknowingly, Ya Allah Kareem. Oh Allah, we have become, our hearts have become so darkened because of our amal, Ya Allah Kareem. Ya Allah, we feel that darkness, Ya Allah. Allah, we feel that our hearts have died, Ya Allah Kareem. We only find nafsi amara within us, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, help us, Allah. Help us bring ourselves out of this rut, Ya Allah Kareem. Oh Allah, fix us, Ya Allah Kareem. We present ourselves in front of you, Ya Allah Kareem. Allah, we want to become yours. Allah, we want to become people who are free from shirk khafi, Ya Allah Kareem. Help us, Ya Allah Kareem. Allah, give us ikhlas, Ya Allah. Give us ikhlas in our iman. Give us ikhlas in our amal, Ya Allah Kareem. Allah Kareem. Ya Allah, you are the most forgiving. You love to forgive. Allah, we ask that you forgive each and every one of us, Ya Allah Kareem. Oh Allah, you yourself, Ya Allah, you welcome back people who do tawbah. You say, Inna Allah yuhibbu tawabin. You love those people who return back to you, Ya Allah Kareem. Allah, we do true tawbah today of all the sins and disobediences, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we know we became rebellious in our lives. Ya Allah, we only listen to our own desires, our own nafs. Allah, our life only became about ourselves, Ya Allah Kareem. Allah, truly we recognize our mistake. Ya Allah, we ask you, Ya Allah, that Ya Allah, because of your infinite mercy, because Ya Allah, you introduce yourself as Rahman and Rahim. Oh Allah, that you are the Tawwab, and Ya Allah, you are Ghafoor and Shakur, Ya Allah Kareem. We ask Allah that Ya Allah, you find it, Ya Allah, to forgive each and every one of us, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, give us a righteous and pious life. Give us a life of taqwa. Give us a life of tahara. Give us a life of purity, Ya Allah Kareem. Purity of our hearts, purity of our desires, purity of our thoughts, Ya Allah Kareem. Our heads have become garbage cans, Ya Allah. There's so many wasawis, Allah, in our heads. We have no idea what to do with them, Ya Allah. Clean our mind, Ya Allah Kareem. Clean, Ya Allah, all the filth of our fikr, Ya Allah Kareem. Oh Allah, make us righteous Muslims. Make us strong Muslims. Help us, Ya Allah Kareem. Help us help each other on the path of deen and dunya, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we are travelers in in this life, Ya Allah. Your Prophet taught us, Kun fi dunya ka'annaka ghareeb. Ya Allah, we are travelers. Help us, Ya Allah. Help us travelers on this life, Ya Allah Kareem. We seek you, Ya Allah Kareem. Allah, we want you to come in our life. We want you to come in our hearts, Ya Allah Kareem. We are so empty without you, Ya Allah Kareem. Seconds are passing by, Ya Allah. Allah, our life is just wasting away, Ya Allah. Oh Allah Kareem, our hair are turning gray. Allah, time will come, Ya Allah, where people will be telling us to read Kalima Taiba. Before that time comes, help us realize Tawheed Hakiki, Ya Allah Kareem. Allah, people, they will be closing our eyes, Ya Allah Kareem. Before that time comes, oh Allah, open the eyes of our inner self, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, people, they will be giving us ghusl. Before they give us ghusl, Allah, help us take the ghusl of Tawbah, Ya Allah Kareem. Ya Allah, the time will come. People will lead our namaz-e-janaza. Allah, Ya Allah, we'll be sitting there, we'll be lying there, and people will leading our namaz-e-janaza. Allah, before that time comes, give us khushu and khudu in our salat, Ya Allah Kareem. A time will come when people will take us. Ya Allah, will protest when people will take us. Ya Allah, they will drop us in the darkness of the qabr, Ya Allah Kareem. Allah, before that time comes, when we are all alone, under tons and tons of soil, Ya Allah, all alone in the darkness, when those insects, Ya Allah Kareem, Ya Allah, we ask that you give us khalwa and solitude in our life, Ya Allah. Help us, give us khalwa in our hearts, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, make our hearts empty of anyone but you, Ya Allah Kareem. For too long have we lived for others. For too long have we had love of dunya in our hearts. Ya Allah, we have made our hearts filthy. Allah, help us clean them. Help us achieve tazkiyah. Help us achieve purification, Ya Allah Kareem. Oh Allah, help us implement the Quran and the Sunnah in our lives, Ya Allah. Help us become people who are engaged in the Sunnah. Ya Allah, we have no khulus towards you. We have no khulus towards Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. If we were loyal to him, we would never break his heart like we do every day, Ya Allah. We will never leave any of his sunnahs, Ya Allah Kareem, like we do. Allah, we have no khulus, no sincerity towards Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Make us people of ikhlas. Allah, when we claim we love Rasulullah, what kind of lovers are we that we leave his sunnah, Ya Allah Kareem? Help us embrace our identity. Help us embrace the sunnah, Ya Allah. Help us embrace this with our outer self. Help us embrace this with our inner self, Ya Allah Kareem. Oh Allah, make us into such Muslims that when we face Rasulullah on the Day of Judgment, Allah, He is happy to see us, Ya Allah. Allah, we are afraid if we die right now, Allah, there's nothing for us. Allah, there's nothing to present in front of you. Allah, we can't even face Rasulullah in this stage, Ya Allah. Allah, make us into somebody who's pleasing to you, who's pleasing to Rasulullah Sallallahu Ya Allah Kareem. Oh Allah, help us learn this deen. Allah, help us learn this ilm. Help us gain amal on this. Ya Allah, as Rasulullah said, that even people of amal, they will be destroyed other than the people of ikhlas. And then Prophet said in this hadith that even people of ikhlas, they are in khatarun azim. They're in grave danger because shaitan can always come and Allah, he can make us arrogant of our amal. Ya Allah, shaitan can always come and make us content with our amal. Allah, even people of ikhlas, they are in so much trouble. Allah Kareem, Allah, protect us from shaitan, Ya Allah. Allah, we can't protect ourselves. We ask you that you save us from that animal, Ya Allah Kareem. Oh Allah, you have complete control. Allah, we have no control, Ya Allah. Allah, protect us from the Khatrun Azim. Allah, we all know none of our amal will take into Jannah. It is only your grace, Ya Allah Kareem. Even Prophet said that even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's fazl will take me into Jannah. Who are we, Allah, that we are so happy over our amal? Allah, there's nothing to present in front of you. Only our azzi, only our humility and humbleness. Ya Allah Kareem, we only present to you the tears of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Accept them. Allah, accept the blisters on his feet. Allah, he was saying, Ya ummati, Ya ummati. Allah, accept those cries of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Accept the blood that he shed for us. Accept, Ya Allah, accept the torture, Ya Allah, that he was done for us, Ya Allah Kareem. We have nothing to present in front of you. We only present to you, in front of you Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his cries, Ya Allah. Because of his sake, Allah, forgive each and every one of us. Ya Allah, give us his shafa'ah on the day of judgment. Allah, make us his true sons and daughters. Ya Allah, make us his true ambassadors of the deen, Ya Allah Kareem. Help us serve the deen, Allah. Help us serve the deen, Ya Allah Kareem. We have lived for our lives. Most of our life we have lived for ourselves, Ya Allah Kareem. Allah, we have forgotten you. We have neglected the deen. Whatever days are left, Allah, help us remember you. Help us serve the deen, Ya Allah Kareem. Allah, before we die, Ya Allah, become pleased with us. Give us your raza. Allah, please accept this dua. Allah, give us death afterwards. Give us your raza first, Ya Allah Kareem. Oh Allah, be pleased with us, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, help each and every one of us be steadfast on the deen. Help Muslims wherever they are in the dunya, Ya Allah. Whatever trials they're facing, help them, Ya Allah Kareem. Oh Allah Kareem, we ask you that will you help us spread this deen in the four corners of the world, Ya Allah. Make us a source of guidance for others. Make us a source of light for others, Ya Allah Kareem. Oh Allah, if there are any trials and tribulations, Ya Allah, we ask that you ease them on us, Ya Allah. Allah, if anybody is sick, we ask you that you give them shifa, Ya Allah Kareem. You are Shafi'ul Amraz. Only you can give us shifa, Ya Allah Kareem. Oh Allah, if anybody has any jaiz, any right wishes in their heart, Allah, we ask that you accept those du'as as well, Ya Allah Kareem. Oh Allah, help us attach ourselves to you, Ya Allah Kareem. Please accept all of these du'as with your rahmah, with your fazl and karam alone, Ya Allah. Khudawanda maqsood man tu wa razaye tu. मेरा मोहब्बत व मारफत ज़ौक़ व शौक़ खुद बिद्दे सल्लल्लाहु ताला अला खैरि खल्क़िही मुहम्मद व अला आलिहि व अस्हाबिहि अजमईन बिरहमतिका या अरहमर राहिमीन।